Long ago and far away, in a hot and beautiful land, there lived in great comfort and splendor a rich young man called Hakim. His father had just died and left him a great fortune. Now Hakim loved good living and spent his fortune entertaining his friends with grand feasts. He had a great love of horses, and there was nothing he liked better than to be surrounded by his friends as he watched the horses race across the sand. Hakim had no thoughts of looking after his fortune, and he was always giving money away. Whatever he wanted, he would buy. If he saw a horse he liked, he would give its owner a great bag of gold, even though the stables were already full of horses. He was equally generous with his friends. Whatever they wanted, Hakim would buy. Months passed, and it wasn't long before Hakim had spent all his fortune. He had to sell everything: his camels, his sheep, and his stable of horses. At last, there was nothing left to sell, and Hakim was now homeless and hungry. So one day, he decided to go to the market and see if he could find some work. He knew that sometimes sheiks passed in looking for servants. Perhaps he might be lucky. He did hope so, for he had not eaten for 3 days, and he was very tired and hungry. The market was busy with women buying, traders selling, and travellers passing through. Hakim waited patiently. He did hope someone would stop and ask if he wanted a job, for he was young and able-bodied and prepared to work hard for his living, even though he'd never been a servant before. No one approached Hakim, and he began to feel very despondent. He decided to walk round to the other side of the market. Perhaps he would have more luck there. He'd been waiting for many hours, and he did not have much hope now. The afternoon was drawing in, and soon people would be leaving and returning to their homes. But just as Hakim was about to leave, who should come down the steps into the market but an elderly sheik with a sad expression. He walked slowly across the square, and as he came closer, Hakim caught sight of him through the crowd. Suddenly, he realized who it was. It was his favorite uncle, whom he hadn't seen for many months. How wonderful! Perhaps he would give him a job. Hakim hurried over. "Greetings, uncle," he cried. "Don't you remember me?" The sheik smiled. "Yes, though you look careworn, I know you to be my nephew," he said. And he embraced Hakim warmly. "I'm so glad I found you, uncle," sighed Hakim. And as he and the sheik made their way through the market, Hakim told his uncle how he had foolishly spent his fortune and how he was now penniless, homeless, and without any work. The sheik listened silently and did not criticize his nephew. Surely he had learnt his lesson. Besides, he had an idea how to help him. So he said, "I have just the job for you, Hakim. Do not ask questions, just come with me. You must work hard, though." "Of course I will, uncle," cried Hakim in delight. So the sheik led his grateful nephew off through the market and away to where his men were waiting. A horse was soon found for Hakim, and in no time they were galloping out of the city and across the desert towards the sheik's palace. As Hakim galloped across the sand, he felt happy and full of hope. When they arrived at the palace, the sheik asked Hakim to follow him, and he led him into a beautiful room. There were fine carpets on the floor, and the room was lit by golden lamps. Inviting Hakim to sit, the sheik leant forward and opened his money box. Hakim saw it was filled with gold coins. "Take this gold, Hakim, and with it manage my household," said the sheik. "It will be my honor," said Hakim happily. "Now come with me," said the sheik, and he led Hakim across the room until they came to a window that looked down into the courtyard. There sat 4 sheiks in a circle, weeping and moaning in great sorrow. "Your job, Hakim, is to look after our every need," said the sheik. "Will you do that?" "Oh, yes," said Hakim, though he was puzzled by the sheik's behavior. "There is only one thing forbidden you," said the sheik sternly. "You must never ask us why we weep." Hakim promised never to ask. So for many years, Hakim served the 5 sheiks faithfully. Nothing was too much trouble for him. He did his job silently and well, and his uncle was very pleased with his good work. Sometimes Hakim did wonder at the terrible grief of the 5 sheiks, but they never spoke about it, and he respected their silence. Until, with the passing years, the grieving sheiks died one by one of their terrible sorrow, and were buried in magnificent stone tombs in the palace garden. At last, the 4th sheik died, and left Hakim and his uncle alone in the great palace. The sheik was very sad to lose his close companions of many years. Hakim began to fear that it wouldn't be long before his uncle too began to pine away and die. And indeed, it wasn't long before Hakim's uncle did fall sick and soon lay close to death. As Hakim nursed him lovingly, he said at last, "Uncle, I have served you faithfully these many years, and I desire to know but one thing. What is the cause of your weeping?" "You should not have asked, but if you listen to me, perhaps it will save you from suffering." The old sheik raised himself weakly from his bed and pointed to a heavy door. He whispered, "If you wish to remain happy, never, ever open that door. For if you do, you will repent it all the days of your life." Then the sheik fell back on the pillows and died, his sorrow at last over. Poor Hakim was very sad to lose his dear uncle, for he was very fond of him. He would remember his words and stay away from the door. Hakim buried his uncle in a tomb beside those of the 4 other sheiks. He now found himself the owner of the beautiful palace and all its many treasures. Once more he was a very wealthy young man, but he mourned the loss of his uncle, whose kindness and love Hakim missed sorely. For some time, Hakim lived very happily at the palace, enjoying the fruits of his years of faithful service. Until one day, he just happened to pass the forbidden door. As he went to open it, he remembered his uncle's warning, but his curiosity was too great, and quickly he shut back the rusty bolts and opened it. He did not hesitate for a second, but went quickly through the door and soon found himself in a deep tunnel. He had no idea where it led to. It was too late to go back now, and besides, he was very curious to see where it went. How exciting it was! Perhaps now he would discover the reason for the sheik's grief, a question which had been troubling him for some time. At last, Hakim came to the end of the tunnel and found himself on a cliff overlooking a strange country. Just as Hakim was wondering what to do, a giant appeared from nowhere, and before Hakim could run away, the giant picked him up and started carrying him up the mountain. Hakim was much too frightened to say anything to the giant, and the giant said not a word to him. On and on strode the giant, carrying Hakim as though he was but a feather. Hakim looked about, but had no idea where he was. At last, they came to the top of a rocky hill, and without a word, the giant set Hakim down and disappeared among the rocks. Hakim was feeling frightened and shaken, and was beginning to wish he hadn't opened the door. for he was now miles away from home and had no idea where he was or what to do. Also, he was feeling very hot and thirsty, but he had no water. Just then, Hakim looked up, and what should he see but a train of camels high on the ridge above him? Should he shout at the 3 riders? There was one extra camel. Wouldn't it be wonderful if it was for him? And then he saw to his great joy that the camel train was indeed making its way towards him. As they came closer, Hakim saw with some surprise that though it was a man leading the camels, the 3 riders were in fact beautiful young maidens. The first maiden dismounted and made her way to Hakim, offering him a golden cup. It was filled with a refreshing nectar that immediately quenched Hakim's thirst. The second maiden offered Hakim some food, and the third maiden held out a beautiful golden robe and placed it round his shoulders. Hakim would dearly have liked to ask these 3 young maidens where he was, but they spoke not a word to him. Instead, they led him away to where the camels were waiting. Hakim was in such a daze, he did not resist, and they helped him up into the saddle. One of the maidens placed a golden headdress on him. And they set off across the hot, dry desert. They journeyed on for many hours until they came to a fertile plain. Each time Hakim ventured to ask the beautiful maidens where they were going. They would say nothing, but smile mysteriously. So Hakim just had to be patient and wait. Though it was hot, Hakim's thirst seemed completely quenched by the soothing nectar the maiden had given him, and the food had satisfied his hunger. On and on they went, until they came to a lush green valley through which ran a sparkling stream. Hakim had never seen such pretty countryside, and he knew he must be in another land. As Hakim journeyed on, he thought how strange his life had been. First, he'd been left a fortune, which he had foolishly spent. Then, when his fortunes were at their lowest, he had met his uncle, who had given him work. Then he had lost his uncle, and had been left another fortune. And now, because he was too curious to be obedient, he had entered the forbidden door and found himself travelling over a strange land with 3 beautiful maidens. Then as they came over the plain, Hakim saw in the distance a most magnificent palace surrounded by beautiful gardens and trees. Never before had Hakim seen such a palace. It looked truly splendid as it glittered in the sunlight. At last, they arrived in the gardens, and the 4 camels went gracefully down on their knees so that their riders might dismount. The 3 beautiful maidens climbed down with great ease, but Hakim was so overcome that he just sat there until one of the maidens gently helped him down. They led Hakim away through the gardens until they came to a sumptuous inner courtyard hung with silk. Many soldiers stood on guard, who bowed as Hakim and the maidens passed by. Suddenly, Hakim stopped, for there was a door, just like the forbidden door he had entered. Then Hakim saw the king. The king said not a word to the nervous young man, but took him gently by the hand and led him up onto the silken throne. More and more, Hakim felt sure he must be dreaming. The king beckoned him to be seated, and Hakim obediently did so. The king sat down beside him, and there was a moment's silence. Then suddenly, The king drew back his veil and revealed himself to be a beautiful woman. Hakim gasped as the queen smiled and said, "Know you that in this country it is the women who rule?" The queen then turned and pointed to a soldier, who immediately drew back his cloak and revealed himself to be a woman. Hakim was stunned. "But are there no men in your kingdom?" he asked. "Oh, yes, many," smiled the queen. "They work in the land and look after the needs of our people, while we women are the soldiers, magistrates, and governors." Just then, a grey-haired woman appeared. She was very dignified, and Hakim guessed she must be the vizier. The queen nodded to her and said, "Please bring forth the Qadi and witnesses." The vizier then withdrew. The queen turned to Hakim and smiling said, "Are you happy I should be your wife?" When Hakim heard this, he was truly overcome. "But I am unworthy of the honor," he gasped, as he gazed adoringly at her. She just smiled gently and then pointed to the fabulous palace, saying, "All that you see before you is yours. My kingdom is your kingdom." Hakim could not believe it. He must be dreaming. Then the queen looked at him very solemnly and, pointing to the door, said, "There is only one thing that is forbidden of you here. You must not open that door, or you will be forever sorry." Hakim nodded solemnly. He would not open the door this time. Just then, the vizier returned with the Qadi and the witnesses. Hakim noticed that again they were all women. Hakim and the queen rose from the throne and came down to where the Qadi was waiting. As the wedding ceremony took place, Hakim felt as if he were floating on air. He kept expecting to wake up and be back in the palace. But instead, Hakim and the queen were joined together in marriage, and a great feast was held in celebration. Hakim was the only man at the feast. The beautiful maidens laughed and talked and ate the many delicious foods. All of them seemed delighted that their queen had married the young man. Hakim blessed the day that he had disobeyed his uncle's orders and opened the door into this wonderful and enchanting world. If he had stayed in the palace, he would never have wanted for anything. But if he hadn't entered the forbidden door, he would never have gained such a beautiful queen for a wife, and all the priceless possessions which he now so happily shared with him. The feast went on all day, as more and more delicious fruits and sweets were brought. Hakim just wished that his uncle had not been so stubborn, for if he had opened the door, he could have enjoyed all this splendor and delight. It was not difficult to obey the queen and stay away from the forbidden door, for he had everything he desired. For 7 years, Hakim lived very happily with his queen. He was given everything and wanted for nothing. Until one day, he just happened to pass the forbidden door, which he'd forgotten all about. Suddenly, he felt curious. Why wouldn't his wife allow him to open it? Perhaps behind it there lay greater treasure, more than which he now possessed. Had he not been forbidden to open the first door? So unable to resist his curiosity and greed, he opened the door and went down into the tunnel. As he made his way deeper into the tunnel, he thought how very silly his wife was to forbid him to see where the door led to. For if there was nothing very interesting at the end, he could always turn back. Suddenly, there stood the giant with a dreadful expression. "Fool! All is now lost. Only misery awaits." Hakim turned to run back down the tunnel, but it was too late. The giant just picked him up and carried him outside. Silently and with great contempt, the giant carried Hakim back over the Rocky Mountains. Hakim could not weep or even utter a word, for he knew he'd been the greatest fool of all. Whatever he did or said, the giant would never take him back to the beautiful enchanting land he'd just left. they came to the rocks close to Hakim's palace. The giant put Hakim down and disappeared without a word. Hakim, dazed and in deep despair, sat and wept. He stayed there without moving for many days, weeping for the loss of his queen and the beautiful country he had left behind. He hoped that he might just be forgiven and allowed to return there, and his heart lifted when, after many days, he looked up and saw on the horizon a rider on a camel. Was it his queen, coming to bring him back to her palace? Oh, he did hope so. But with a faint whisper of, "Goodbye, Hakim, weep forevermore," the rider disappeared. Hakim then knew that through his great greed and curiosity, he had lost everything he loved and held dear forever. Hakim returned to his palace. At last he understood the reason for the other sheik's grief. For now he too spent all day weeping, not caring to eat or drink. And not wishing to afflict another with his sickness or grief, he kept to himself forever the secret of the forbidden door.